where you could probably afford to not have to live in the Arctic Circle. I think there are definitely parts of Russia where, like, if you're living in the Arctic Circle, it's because that's the only job you can get.
Well, both these teams will probably be happy to only be on this map temporarily, at least for the third one in the series, as we'll be moving on to number 4 fairly shortly. But THK back on the Sombra at Cyclone coupling that are not going to be playing it this time around. And guess what? Lee Chang-soon back on lineup.
So there you have it. And I think part of that might be because they obviously had this Widowmaker comp they want to run, but Eternal, one of the only 2 tanks at play here, goes down. This is a double sniper composition for Cyclone coupling, something we've seen a little bit of, but not in this incarnation. Nice catch on Queen.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bunker as well. It's like a bunkered sniper composition where it's usually...
A biker. No,
sure.
wait. Doesn't work.
But usually you'd see maybe, you know, Torbjorn or Bastion kind of setup going on here. But, hey, this is what they want to go with, and so far it is paying dividends. You need to see EMP be a factor soon, but look, Eternal's doing a great job of just keeping THK at bay.
And arguably vice versa as well. Eternal is able to rejoin the team now, and Xavier have used that time to make sure Queen can get back safely. Ooh. Oh, catch on Jackie.
Who's a sniper now?
Yeah, suddenly Red Fox isn't in the pocket for long enough for the pick rather to come through, and that's not a resable position either. Nice headshot onto THK though, does help even up the score a little.
And now this is where Xavier trying to push in. The bunker will it hold? That's the big question. We need to see more picks out of Cyclone.
So far just a little bit quiet even with the pickup on Queen now. Xavier, they're actually pushing onto the point, so it's actually on Cyclone Company to answer, and they're more than able to do so. Jackie swings in, able to pick up some kills. This is actually triple tag. Jackie comes back here on a wrecking ball, picks up 3 kills, 4 now, and suddenly Cyclone Coupling force Xavier off.
And this is where you almost maybe consider if Lee Chang-soon goes back to spawn and comes back as something else more appropriate for this comp, that would be better.
Another tank.
Staying as a sniper is now making this a super wacky defense, and, well, Jackie now going to respond with the fire, which is actually quite nice.
Love me a wacky defense. Jackie, more than happy to come back on the Farah. They've decided the Hans wasn't quite
defender.
working out. Yeah. Wacky Jackie. It doesn't work. The wrong
Close.
Battle. Ooh, THK thought about EMP.
Speaking of close, he did think about that one. Needs to set up a little bit better. This might be the one he is waiting for.
No, actually not quite. They do end up getting Transcendence out, but they're using that Transcendence to get kills. And Lee Chang-soon, second time he gets the headshot on THK early in the fight. So EMP definitely not going to be a factor here. And I think by this point, you probably wouldn't have wanted to commit it anyway.
So this is a definite response. GCGG sees the relocation, the translocator rather fly up into the air. He's spotting the possibility of an EMP. He's preempting it by using the Transcendence. THK is holding on, saying, I'm going to wait this one out. Problem is, he dies, and now he dies again. The problem for Xavier is because they are waiting out the Transcendence and now resetting for a secondary fight without a Transcendence on the defense, they are losing a lot of time. That is the cost of this play for Xavier. They're building up to now nearly 5 ultimates. They will probably eventually win it, but it's taken a while.
And I mean, if Lee Chang-soon just finds another headshot, then it's not going to matter. This guy has been absolutely nuts. 3 in a row on THK, and this time it's Didicor, and they're just stopping it before it can even start for Xavier.
Now, this is tough. Does Xavier reset here? Do they go back to spawn and pick up Didicor? If they don't, maybe he gets sniped out again. That's a very real possibility, but now they're kind of caught as well. Detection
on THK, though, means they do have tabs on his last known location. Straight out into a rocket barrage. That's enough to get SQX, and THK again gets headshot, and another one on Didicor. And Xavier just can't make any headway, mostly because their heads keep getting shot off.
I think they should have just reset there. I don't know why they wanted to rotate. Now they have no time. They had about a minute remaining. They can use 30 seconds if necessary to get all 6 members, use all 6 ultimates, and still be pretty happy about it. But because they kind of still lose another fight, they're down to 30 seconds, in fact less now anyway, and they have made no ground. It's really unfortunate to see them in this position.
And all it takes is for one more headshot in the rotation, and they are done for. The EMP comes across, but it only gets a few. It's not ideal. They've found Jackie, though, and Eternal, so that is a good opener. They really needed some of those ultimates. Red Fox does have a Valkyrie and will be able to commit a res here with any luck, so it's really a lot of work to be done from Lee Chang-soon because Xavier are truly starting to break through now with Queen picking up Fallen. Cyclone Coupling, I think they've accepted that this one is going to go the way of Xavier. They want to preserve what ultimates they have so that there isn't a snowball, but that was actually quite a good fight for Xavier. It only actually cost them the 1 ultimate.
And for Cyclone Coupling as well, I mean, that could have gone better if they had the Transcendence available. GCGG doesn't have it until maybe partway through that engagement. No headshot from Lee Chang-soon this time around. And for Xavier, this is the fight that has been a long time coming. They knew they had advantage. They knew the EMP was going to be big. It just took them about 2 minutes to actually do it.
So Xavier, preserving a good number of other ultimates here. making that swap onto the Diva. They could still break through this one.
Yeah,
See how they
those
choose to
things
commit.
come
There's
through.
a lot of damage in the rotation as the grab comes out in a position that is really tough to follow up on. This is actually THK being the one isolated, and look at that, Jackie. Rocket Barrage right onto the rest of the concentrated members of Xavier. I would dare say a bit of a blunder from Xavier.
I'll tell you what, it's hard to really push on if you're someone on the ground, but Jackie doesn't care about that. He's flying in the air. He's easily going to be able to land a rocket barrage on top of a grab combo. That's one of the OG combos right from beta, I like to think, as well. For Xavier now, big reset here, lost a bunch of ultimates. Cyclone coupling cashing in big.
No one can hide from my sight.
Yeah, so that was Patapan committing the grab in, and I mean, honestly, it was only a couple of members there anyway, and a couple of members of Xavier were just sort of isolated, so it was Cyclone coupling going to make some swaps though. They just want to sit on some 3-3 here. They don't need to run the DPSs on this point B. They already got the mileage out of those ultimates.
And this is an important change because Fire's not going to have a lot of mileage on B, for the most part defending, or attacking rather. And Widowmaker as well, I'm not going to see too much mileage, so I'm going to play something a little bit safer, self-destruct on 2.
That's gross. I mean, usually you're just lobbing that forward to make some space and maybe get a kill, but getting 2 and then routing the rest, man, you'll take that and run with it.
Nearly 2 minutes gone, yet again, Xavier still just kind of awaiting ultimate, still just kind of licking their wounds a little bit, seeing where they can likely strike. It will probably take them nearly until possibly the last minute, somewhere close to overtime before they build up the required amount of ultimates to really break past.
Just looking to take their time, line it up. Xavier got just enough time that they should be able to charge up ultimates if they don't get some success in these next few fights. This is about as close to even as they could get, though.
Because Rally has been used now, Xavier do want to start going in if possible for him stand up.
Yeah, not quite able to finish him off in time, so he will get the Primal Rage off and will be able to put down a lot of pressure with that as well. Queen bumped off to the side, is going to be able to leap back in, but so low on health. Meanwhile, though, on the rest of the fight, Xavier do actually crack through GCGG. That does take a Transcendence off the table, and now Fallen will actually end up going down. Queen survives, ultimately. Stuck as they are in the grab, they have a Transcendence to deal with there. Xavier are in pretty good shape here. Isolating Lee Chang-soon now, going to be able to finish him off. Eternal really low, having to duck and weave in and out of this fight, and not able to stay out for long enough. Grab in, GCGG responds with Transcendence, but they're not on the point for the most part, and Eternal gets finished off, so Xavier maintaining a numbers advantage.
And this is where now, looking at the new ultimates coming through SQX, second rally to be used. Tay nearly on a sound barrier, and Cyclone coupling are not picking up enough kills.
And Queen's coming up on a Primal Rage as well, so they've definitely got the staying power here, even with the sound barrier onto a couple of these members. Nice catch on THK, but they're going to need a lot more than just the Diva if they really want to make this stick. A lot of charge in the pocket of Patapan. They're going to go ahead and commit the Primal Rage. They know that they need to pick up these last few kills nice and quickly before other respawns can come in. So Xavier just trying to push ahead, push the advantage. Sound barrier and now grab, hopefully to finish off these last few members. Struggling to get through it though. Cyclone coupling is still in this.
They have the Transcendence available just now, and Cyclone coupling starting to survive, starting to find kills as well. THK down. You can see Xavier on the retreat. They're losing too many members to continue.
It's only 15 seconds, now less than, even with Thittercorn going down at that late point. So Xavier nearly had it closed out, but Cyclone coupling just barely holding on, and that clutch Transcendence from GCGG as well.
And Xavier ran out of ultimates. They had a couple coming up, but they couldn't find the picks. Now we're into the overtime, and they need to get something done.
They do force overtime thanks to Tay without actually losing anyone. A lot of members in that Earth Shatter. They may just be in trouble. No, they survived that one. Now pushing forward, but they've got to do so through a minefield. Patapan not going to survive the march. They try to use Transcendence to get through, but Queen's not going to make it there either. And as the troops cross no man's land, they get mowed down by the minefields. Xavier not going to be able to push that to 2/3. 62.6% is all they will pick up, and that is now all Cyclone coupling need to take it to match point.
And when you look at B, it starts to look so winnable for Xavier, but then you remember they only had 4 minutes to play with to start with on B, because it took them until overtime on A to even start attempting B. Now, if they had maybe another minute, maybe another 2 minutes from a better successful push from that A offense, this could have been a full completion somewhere down the line for Xavier, you'd like to imagine. But things add up, and unfortunately for them, the defense for Cyclone coupling on both A and B proving a little bit too much.
There you go, Lee Chang-soon. Compilation for you.
And this is why. I mean, part of this is so much time wasted because individual members kept getting picked up by the Widowmaker.
That's just a bonus clip. Getting 2 with the self-destruct. Like I mentioned, not something you get a whole lot of. And
now you're looking at the Xavier defense thinking, this is it. This could be where, you know, the tide really starts to shift and Cyclone Coupling get that match point, forces you to number 4, and this could be a 3-1 in favor of Cyclone Coupling. And you're starting to get a little bit worried because if we had at least a map completion, we go to Time Bank, but it will now be 2 maps out of 2 from Iconvolta to Volskaya that we do not see that Time Bank come in.
Cyclone Coupling hovering at quad DPS. I would not at all be surprised if this is what they run out the gate. Xavier, on the other hand, they are flexing onto a Widowmaker here. They're on the defense. This is something they're committing to, which I do like if Cyclone Coupling run quad DPS, but they can always just swap off it.
And that is exactly what the attacker's advantage is compositional freedom. They will see the Widowmaker that Patapan's running and they'll say, I don't know that I really want to play into it. It's interesting to see Lee Chang-soon snipe against him, but realistically, Cyclone Coupling can go into 3-3 and have a much better time.
And I mean, they also don't have to do it straight away. They can do it after Patapan has some success. And if he doesn't, then Cyclone Coupling just get a cap anyway. And there you go. Jackie's already going to open up on K. Now GCGG outflanks Thidicor, and suddenly with no supports on the table with SQX down, Xavier, there's really very little keeping them alive in this fight. Really very little keeping them on this point. Not even quite able to snipe out Red Fox close as that came.
Really nice pressure against Patapan as well. He's the key player to really get some picks in there, and as both Widowmaker goes down, Cyclone Coupling have more members alive.
Yeah, Xavier did pick up like 1 or 2 kills back there. I think actually only the one on Red Fox, who will respawn before this cap goes through. A little unfortunate in a way. You'd maybe like it to be after, just after, ideally, with the closer spawn, but they will get the cap. That's what counts.
And when you see both Widowmakers here defending a point for Patapan, you're thinking, okay, it's enemy at the gates, but for Cyclone Coupling, they've already charged through, they're already on your point, they've already capped, and now they only need 62.6%. They're in your house now.
Cyclone Coupling coming up on some really big tools here. They're a little bit of ways away from them, but it won't take them long to finish charging an EMP, finish charging ideally a rocket barrage to layer in on top of it. Really just even a pulse bomb from GCGG could be an opening pick.
And they're looking for something. They've got so many ultimates coming online. The risk of a double cap is so prevalent right now. It's a stick.
Oh, there it is. That's all you needed. Patapan down and out for the count, and they lose so much of the frag pressure. Even with these other DPSs here, they do find one on Jackie, though. That is nice.
There's
Take
a res.
the rocket barrage off the table. Like you said, respawns and reses, all factors here. EMP available, but Eternal, they've gone ahead and committed the Valkyrie so they can get the res. Now they want the EMP, but Red Fox dies going for that res, and that means there can't be much follow-up on that EMP. They were hoping to get the rocket barrage available for it, so things not quite panning out there for Cyclone Coupling.
Vasily Zaitsev over here just holding Cyclone Coupling back, and that first shot of Jackie, so important because he's such a key member. Red Fox then going for the resurrection, knowing that she could be at risk. Cyclone Coupling then lose her as well. That's the key. That's the next key member, because both your Pharmacy combo members, notably your Mercy, which is really your only healer, that's all the sustain you've got. And for Cyclone Coupling, it was a great start, great pulse bomb, didn't amount to much.
Xavier don't have too much to work with on this defense, but they've got just enough of the right stuff. The EMP going to be coming up on rotation, and Cyclone Coupling have also swapped onto 3-3. So they're in a bit of a rebuild phase anyway. This is where Xavier should be able to kick their ultimate economy into gear.
Especially with the EMP, you need to charge up the Graviton Surge next. Tay's nearly on Salvary, so defense is in effect. That's going to be a 4-5 man.
Yeah, that's plenty enough, and they get some good damage out as well. Ideally, they want a few more kills than just that, but actually, a lot of Cyclone Coupling will fall out from that. They'll be able to get away. Eternal takes a dive, and Queen overextends. So that was not the fight that Xavier really wanted it to be.
Well, to be honest, they did win eventually. This is where it could be tricky, though, because Xavier
Patapan
are on the back foot, and Cyclone Coupling are pushing back in.
Yeah, Patapan's had to duck off to the side. It's going to be hard for him to really get back in the team here, and that's potentially going to cost them as Cyclone Coupling regroup and push forward.
And for environmentals, maybe. Where's the Graviton Surge that did land out?
Queen tried to go ahead and commit a Primal Rage to help Patapan come to his aid, but it's not got too much mileage. This is 3 for 2 in favor of Cyclone Coupling. Suddenly Xavier are having to dig deep into the pockets, and this is really not where they thought they were going to be in the course of this fight. Cyclone Coupling wanting to keep the pressure on here.
I think Cyclone Coupling need a few more picks because Thidicor has respawned with a Transcendence, so eventually Xavier will be able to just sustain themselves on that defense. But for Cyclone Coupling, we need to see the next Graviton Surge, we need to see the next Earth Shatter, we need to see some big offensive tools, and Queen is going to change to Ryan.
Yeah, you might as well. You've used that Primal Rage. Seeing as Xavier do still lead in a lot of ultimates, but they aren't as far ahead as they really want to be. Indeed, as they had the opportunity to be just a couple of fights ago, is now this one just going to break out. Really an out-and-out brawl. Transcendence out. Queen goes down. Didicon does not quite save the Reinhardt. This is an early lead for Cyclone Coupling, who's full of a
bigger.
Patapan going down with the grab. That's the massive one. That's the one that's going to turn you in. THK trying to get some kills back. They did at least find Jackie, but they're still getting traded out here. Close to respawns for Xavier, but by the time this grab comes in, it might be hard for them to follow up on it. Red Fox still has a sound barrier.
She's
and
fragging.
Patapan's only just coming out the gates at this point. There they are. Sound barrier on all those members of the grab. Patapan cannot follow up on it alone. Queen is already dead for a second time in the fight, and it's looking like it is all over, but they're crying for Xavier as they trickle piece by piece back onto the point, getting cut down one by one. This should just be the cap coming through in a few moments for Cyclone Coupling here. Will bring them up 2-1 in the series. Will take us officially to match point. Just got to finish off Patapan here. Just got to finish off Queen for one last time.
We're going to see here Cyclone Coupling looking for the last few members. Lee Chang-soon getting in on the action as well. THK attempting to maybe go on the Doomfist.
And I don't think he's going to get the mileage here unless he absolutely plays out of his mind. But no, has to get off the point to avoid the self-destruct. Honestly, fairly well handled by Cyclone Coupling, even the one moment where they were at the biggest disadvantage as they were gearing up for more attacks. Xavier, a little bit of a botched execution there, didn't quite push themselves out to the big lead they needed on the defense to run down that 7 whole minutes.
And it's also a case where better on the offense, better on the defense, better overall on this Volskaya industry
Better
map.
looking.
And it's going to now, well, I mean, we don't really get to see them, but now it does lead to this 2-1 victory so far, or lead, I should say, not nearly a match victory just yet. They need to complete the 3, which will happen potentially on our 4th and potentially even final map. But Xavier, it's time to maybe push it to map 5. It's time to go to that tiebreaker, and I think Xavier still have the capability to get another map victory.
I dare say, but it is also starting to look more and more like Oasis may have actually been the outlier there, and that when push really comes to shove, Cyclone Coupling do still outclass this team. Xavier, like, I think Oasis says a lot, and I don't think they've quite hit the same level they were on Oasis, but at the same time, I do think Cyclone Coupling are playing a bit better now than they were playing on Oasis themselves. So you have the situation where the two teams were like that, and now Xavier's dropped down a little bit, and now Cyclone Coupling have pushed up a little bit, and suddenly that's a lot more distance to have to make back if you really want to take map 4 here and take us to a full 5.
And an interesting thing that we've seen is a bit of consistency is most underdog teams, when they're going up against a team that is more favored in a matchup such as this one, that first control map is typically the more closer map of the series, if not the one that underdog team actually ends up winning. And we can go back to other ones like Giant Lynx versus Global Esports. Surely was that first control map. So it's now up to Xavier to kind of bring it back, take us to map 5, but it all starts on this next game mode, which will be on Escort. So let's go ahead and have a look at how this works.
Welcome to Watchpoint Gibraltar. This is Escort. 2 teams face off as either defenders or attackers. This is the payload. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to escort the payload along a set path containing 3 checkpoints. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby at the same time. To get moving again, attackers must clear away the defenders by force. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. If even one attacker is near the payload when the clock runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared off the payload or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
And now we'll be heading over to Rialto, where hopefully it's a little bit warmer.
Yeah. Now that we're done in the Arctic Circle, we can come down to the temperate Mediterranean. It's got its own climate zone. They just call it the Mediterranean climate.
The equatorial circle instead of the Arctic one?
It's not really that close to the equator.
Hey man, an Overwatch could be anything.
It actually could. For all we know, Rialto's not actually in Italy. For all we know, it's like, I don't know, on the west coast of Africa or something. It's like just.
You know, where's this map? And
Guinea.
you know, feel free to give me royalties afterwards, Jeff, for this. But where's like the secret, you know, almost Bond villain-esque base just in the middle of the ocean? Just a little dot in there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, waiting for that one.
Talon should have something like that. You know, where is it? It's, you know, like, sure, okay, you have one in Rialto, that's nice, you know.
I mean,
I assume there's one in Havana. It's like, that's nice.
Oh, there we go. It is actually in Italy. There's flag and everything. But I mean, what's next as well, right? Like, as soon as you're doing like ocean bases, you've got to start doing like a volcano base. And
oh, that's the direction I think that would be really cool.
And the problem is as well, they've already done a thing on the moon that had nothing to do with villains, so you can't have like some maniacal moon base. Like the movie.
See, that's on the dark side of the moon.
Ah, yeah.
So we've only been to the light side of the moon. We haven't seen the dark side yet.
There's two sides to the Schwartz, the upside and the downside. Just a hot, fresh Spaceballs reference for you, folks. Neither of us wants to come back from that, do we? Well,
clearly you
did. I mean, someone's got to break the stalemate. Cyclone coupling, more than happy to run some DPSs here.
Speaking of potential stalemate, I actually don't know about this Patapan. You'd think probably has the air. She's got more targets to play with, certainly because Jackie's in the air as well. Jackie's got to watch his head right now because he's probably target number one.
Individual number one, the center of it all. Drawing some red lines, and by red lines I mean sniper fire from a Widowmaker.
There's actually a lot of DPS on the Xavier side. The Tracer here is a little bit unusual. It's not usually the one you see, and Jackie now feeling a little bit of that pain. And while it's happening,
yikes!
Lee Chang-Su actually got real pressured out.
Yeah, nice wrap around from THK. Queen taking a lot of heat, but not quite dying. So SQX keeping up pressure. Rez is there, but Xavier have made some good ground here.
So what you see, because they're running Sombra and Tracer together, the unique sort of value here is they can put a lot more pressure against Lee Chang-Su, which gives Patapan the availability to shoot down Jackie.
So now Xavier actually starting to take a bit of hurt. Hack on Red Fox does not quite get followed up on, unfortunately. THK ate some pain, had to translocate back out. So Xavier grinding to a halt for the time being.
Cyclone coupling, eventually they'll get some picks, and that's one finally.
Yeah, they do get a counter trade though as GCGG drops, and look, Xavier do still have the DPSs to just start fragging out. There we go, there's another one. THK finds Lee Chang-Su. I keep doing that. But Xavier, they're actually keeping a lot of pressure up despite the low health bars. They're not dying, and they are still picking up kills on these squishier members. But now Jackie finds another one back, and we're just kind of at ground zero all over again with the payload not actually moving. Nice catch, but traded.
You figure that was eventually going to happen. Jackie doesn't keep an eye on Patapan, and suddenly gets his own eye popped out. And right now, you start to see EMPs coming through and other ultimates.
It just, I mean, this is really messy at this point. Like I said, the cart's not actually been moving throughout the course of a lot of this, so we're now 2 minutes off the clock in the grand scheme of things, and Xavier haven't quite broken through this courtyard. Nice stick though into GCGG as Xavier come in with the full lot of respawns. Red Fox will go in looking for a res, but honestly, she might not find it for a while with the pressure coming in from Xavier.
Might be a little too early as well. Jackie's had enough of Patapan's business.
Yep,
it's a twofer as well.
Exactly, going to pick up Tay in the mix of that as well, and THK not quite able to answer back all of those kills as Lee Chang-Su coming back in on the Tracer over the Widowmaker and having a lot more success with it.
And I think this is where now he can now kind of match SQX a little bit, but also try and find Patapan to give Jackie a bit of a better game, who I'm a little surprised is still onto the fire, but as long as they can maintain the defense, because notably, we're now down to 120, Xavier still actually haven't managed to get too much distance.
And that's the thing, like, with the closer respawns, you would have thought these scrappy, trade-heavy fights should ultimately favor Xavier, but they've actually never quite managed to do that. There's always been enough kills in response for Cyclone coupling, but this time Xavier, with 2 early kills and not as much pressure being laid back on them, Patapan does go down, and as I say that, suddenly they take 2 casualties, and we're all evened up again.
You know what composition beats Xavier's right now? It's Dive. Classic Dive. Tracer, Genji. They're coming in now. He wants to slice and dice. Patapan back into action.
Yeah, gonna have to commit that res there because they need to keep pressure on. SQX finds one, but Queen gets traded out. So again, Xavier, they're not actually making enough headway. They're not getting a critical mass of kills. At best, it's getting traded out, and now it's not even getting that. Cyclone coupling picking up a couple in a row with Xavier getting sent back to spawn.
Oh, Tay is so tricky now. Actually just runs out of the flight. Has to take a dip into the water, and Xavier now, this reset might end up costing them quite a bit. Thittercorn feeling like, well, there's no widow on the side of Cyclone coupling. Why don't I play the fire instead? As what could be their final opportunity, less than 20 seconds.
Do you like the implication that no one in Overwatch can swim, but at any rate, none of them can really fly? pretend I make a sink or swim pun here. Xavier still struggling to make any headway now. 5 seconds left on the clock. Need to at least touch the cart. Should be able to do that, surely.
This cannot be a full hold. Xavier cannot afford that at all. Queen doesn't even have the chance to use mines.
Man. Xavier haven't even brought themselves to full fighting force here. Tactical Visor and SQX dies as it is being channeled. This is an absolute disaster for Xavier. This DPS heavy team composition, for all the kills they've got, for all the opening frags they've got, they never got the critical mass of kills. They're still struggling now, still with the closer respawns. They're the ones losing all the members. They need those respawns. Cyclone Coupling haven't lost members here, still picking up kills. Now Queen keeping some pressure on the point, but probably won't last long with that primal rage there from Fallen. They keep the squishy members off, and Xavier dying for what looks to be the last time on the cart, and that is not a lot of distance.
And look at exactly, I was just going to comment on where the cart actually ended up stopping towards the end. And, you know, for what was, you'd expect a really good start on this map to kind of at least end with a cap onto A, you barely even made it into the courtyard. And that's hugely problematic because Cyclone Coupling should have had a disadvantage in terms of compositional swapping, but they ended up with a better comp towards the end. And for a team like Xavier, they had kind of everything going for them early. They had Patapan as the Widow against Jeki and the Pharaoh, who got shot down multiple times. You have Traces and Sombras pressuring out Lee Chang-soon, who's on his own Widowmaker. Xavier should have been able to get so much more done than what actually happened.
And a very DPS-heavy team composition as well. It felt like it was maybe one of the aces up the sleeve for Xavier. Certainly it paid off for them when they were in the mirror matchup of it back on Oasis, but now on Rialto, it's absolutely blown up in their face.
And I said on Volskaya, it seemed like enemy at the gates, and that's because they were two Widowmakers. But here on Rialto, it's the same thing, but in the theme of this has to be the most ironclad defense for Xavier that they've had so far in this entire series, because we're not just in a space where, okay, you're on Volskaya B defending for 6 or so minutes. You're actually on Rialto A, where the cart has barely moved up, defending for 4 minutes, where if you lose one fight, that's probably it. You probably lose this map, and when that happens, you lose the series.
Yeah, this would be a pretty legendary defense to be sure, and Xavier double sniper, it's the same thing, well, arguably triple if you count the Ana, but at any rate, same as what they've tried to run on point A defensive Volskaya, and that did not work out for them.
So this is going to be, like you mentioned, that bunker coming through as well. It's the Pharaoh bunker, which is actually a 1.34 strat, but they bring it out early. They've been practicing probably decent entry nade, but
can't really follow up on that one.
Can't do too much with it, so whatever.
Yeah, Lee Chang-soon just going to take a nice little firing line here, keep some pressure on the snipers. Good catch on Fallen. Cart's starting to get dangerously close. They're going to have to really keep a lid on Cyclone Coupling this whole defense long, and so far Patapan is doing that.
So I don't know if you can really keep running the Orisa here now that you don't really have cart control, and Patapan's really starting to pop off as well. Infrasight coming online, Cyclone Coupling's like, well, if you want to play snipers, let me add our own Hanzo in there. Jeki now going on.
Yeah, maybe not.
Now the other Shimada brother.
Still waiting for that third Shimada brother. Come on, Jeff, please.
It's Maximilian.
That's Jeff. Jeff Shimada. This is long.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Jeff Shimada, the family accountant. Nice catch again, Patapan. Almost single-handedly keeping a lid on Cyclone Coupling here, but this is where the pressure starts to really come in. GT down, but they did find his QX, so pressure on. And remember, Xavier need to keep presence on the cart here.
Speaking of accounting right now, Patapan's just racking up the dollars.
Ooh. Tay goes in for the res, but that costs him dearly, and that could actually be the more costly death. Patapan low will get finished off. Jeki really starting to open things up here, and there they go! Look at that. Lee Chang-soon finds a headshot right as Jeki goes in back on SQX, and suddenly that res has been completely undone again. Xavier will not get back to that cart, and Cyclone Coupling very casually almost will cruise over the finish line.
Well, you remove the keystone and the entire bridge collapses, and in this case, it was the Widowmaker from Patapan keeping Cyclone Coupling all choked up in their spawn, but as soon as he's out of the picture, and Jeki was willing to put his life on just that mission, take the 1v1, eliminate the biggest threat, and then suddenly the rest of the team, no matter what Jeki does, are going to win that 5v5.
And look at that, call Oasis a speed bump. Xavier are going to be looking at that scoreline, trying to figure out across the next week or so what they can do to change the result of those other 3 maps. Because with this, of course, Cyclone Coupling, unless absolutely crazy things happen and Nova MS drop out of that second place finish they would otherwise be in, Cyclone Coupling should be finishing 3rd here. That puts them back up against Xavier in their first quarterfinals. So bit of an interesting end there for both of these teams who will be seeing each other again very soon, and that keeps that pressure on Xavier.
We talked about the fact that this does give Xavier that second opportunity, that second life, if you will, in that tournament. And, you know, you have to believe they have the individual playmaking capabilities.
Yeah.
We've always known that. You can see that through Panapan. THK's even having a good performance. SQX in there as well. Third-corner on the Ana had a decent one. And this is where they've been able to win maps. They've been able to win fights, really push these games to very close margins. What they haven't been able to do is kind of finish a map to go into the time bank. But this is now where, assuming this match repeats itself for the quarterfinals, Xavier walk away, probably having learned more, go into the new meta, and hopefully have something better prepared the next time they face it.
And that's what you've really got to hope for here. Even as we were saying, this next meta might just help Xavier out a little bit. At the same time, they started struggling with those more DPS-heavy compositions, so I'm not even sure if we can really say that. But the saving grace is this is a loss they suffer now, but they've got a little bit of time to prepare before they face Cyclone coupling again. But that kind of puts a ribbon on that for those two teams, and now only 2 more teams left to play their last match in this regular season.
And it's going to be a bit of a David and Goliath matchup as well. Of course, you see that Nova MS right up there, 5-1, second place, and unfortunately Kicks second to last. So it's going to be a very big ask for Kicks, and Nova will be looking for one more win to conclude.
Difference is David won.
Season. Well, we'll see if David can continue winning then. But that's all going to happen pretty soon after a break. So we'll see you guys pretty soon for the final match of the regular season. Catch you around.